In this lecture, we are going to talk about the circulatory system and human beings and its specific parts, the heart and the vessels. Circulatory system in human beings serves all the requirements for the transport of materials within body and sometimes exchange with the environment. Circulatory system in human beings consists of three major constituents: the blood, circulatory fluid, the vessels, the vascular system in which the blood, the liquid tissue can flow, and the heart, the pumping organ. Blood consists of plasma, the watery liquid, fluid part of the circulatory system that actually transport the materials from one part of the body to another part of the body, and from heart to the body, and from body to the heart, back to the heart. Blood consists of plasma, the liquid part, and cell or cell-like materials. Plasma is about 92% of water, and it has many dissolved proteins, enzymes, hormones, metabolic waste products, oxygen, carbon dioxide, the gases, and lot many other things. Blood also have cellular contents, different kinds of blood cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the platelets, which are cell-like bodies. Red blood cells have the main function in transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. They have hemoglobin molecule which help them to carry oxygen from the blood to the tissues and get the carbon dioxide back from the tissues. The white blood cells serve for immunity, for different types of immune reactions. The white blood cells help the body in handling or dealing with the invaders, inflammations, parasites, and related problems. The platelets help the blood in clotting. Whenever clotting is required, platelets come in action and causes the clotting of the blood. If platelets are deficient, then clotting could not occur, and which may result in seeping out of the blood from the vessels. That is, blood may seep out of the vessel, that is, go out of the vessels, and may be going to the tissues, or may be going out of the body. Then comes the vessels, the vascular system. The vessels are the tubes, or we can say the system of tubes or canals, which allows the flow of blood from heart to the body and from body back to the heart. There are three types of vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are those vessels which carry blood from the heart and distribute that blood inside all of the body organs. Veins are the vessels which takes blood back from the body and return it to the heart. Capillaries are present in between the arteries and the vein. Actually, capillaries connect arteries with the veins. Capillaries are those sites, these are very small vessels, these are those sites where actually exchange of materials takes place between the tissues and the blood. So the arteries, because they are going from the heart towards the body, have the oxygenated blood which is saturated with oxygen. The veins have deoxygenated blood because it is coming back from the body and it have given away its oxygen content to the tissues, to the cells, and now it is going to return that deoxygenated blood to the heart, so that it can send it to the heart, can send it to the lungs to oxygenate that blood, because we know that lungs are the part of a respiratory system which have air inside, which is coming in and going back through the process of inhalation or ventilation, inhalation and exhalation, which makes actually the ventilation. And in the lungs, blood is oxygenated again and is returned back to heart to distribute inside the body. Now we look at the vessels and the heart one by one. Heart is the pumping organ. Heart in human beings, as all the mammals do have, 4 chambers. It is a 4-chambered heart. It is a highly muscular organ because it have to contract and send blood towards the lungs and also towards the whole of the body. Lungs are closer to the heart. The other body parts are too far away. Muscles of the heart have to be very strong because they have to send blood or they have to push blood with a very high pressure. For that, heart have highly muscular walls and lumen. The vessels, blood vessels, are of 3 types. Arteries, which takes blood from the heart and distribute it towards the body. That is, arteries are the vessels which are from heart to the body. Then comes capillaries. Capillaries are the continuation of the arteries at tissue level. When the arteries reaches the organs, they are divided into smaller arteries called arterioles. Arterioles, when reaches the tissues actually, from the organ to the tissues, they are further divided and become very small and makes the capillaries. Capillaries exchange materials with the tissues, oxygen, nutrients, metabolic waste, everything required. Then the capillaries join towards other side to make the venules. Venules join together to make veins. Veins are those vessels which return blood back to the heart. So arteries have an oxygenated blood, veins have a deoxygenated blood. Arteries have more pressure, veins have less pressure. Now we look at them one by one. Their different characteristics, their structure, how the vessels they look like, and what are their functions. Structure and the functions of the blood vessels. Blood vessels, all of them, except for capillaries, consist of 3 layers. An externalmost layer, a middle layer, and an inner layer. The externalmost layer is a layer that consists of connective tissues. The middle layer consists of smooth muscles, maybe different layers of smooth muscles. The inner layer is an epithelial layer because this is towards inside. We call it an endothelium because this is present inside. Then there is a lumen for blood flow. Let's have a look on the diagram of arteries, veins, and capillaries. Here in the diagram, you can see on the left side there is an artery in red color because arteries have oxygenated blood. They are represented by red color. Then you can see that artery is divided into smaller arteries. We call them arterioles. These arterioles are further divided to make a network of very small vessels. These are the capillaries. This is the level where actually the exchange occurs between the tissues and between these capillaries, because these capillaries are very small and the blood cells passes one by one from the lumen of these capillaries so that the exchange of material can easily take place. Then on the other side, you can see that this network is joining back to make a small vein. This is called a venule. Venules join to make a large vein. So this system, which you can actually see here, exists in all of the tissues. Arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins. Coming from the heart, distributing the things, and back to the heart. Now we compare the structure of arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are actually coming out of the heart, and they are actually branches of a major vessel, aorta. Aorta is a major vessel that is coming out of heart, and heart pump the blood into aorta, and aorta then have to distribute that blood into the all parts of body. When heart is pumping, its pumping action is very strong because it have to send blood to all parts of body which are far away from the heart, to the legs, to the feet, to the hands, to the head, everywhere. So arteries have to face maximum of the pressure. that is pressure of the blood. So arteries are thick-walled. Their walls are thick. These walls, due to their thickness, can withstand that pressure which is exerted upon their walls by the blood. If they are thin, they could rupture or break down. The veins, on the other hand, have to face minimum pressure because heart pushes the blood into the aorta. Aorta, when goes down to different organs, its pressure is slowly reduced. At the capillary level, there is a less pressure. When it makes venules, more less pressure, because you know that pressure was exerted only by the heart, and then it is only going to slow down. Then in the large veins, there is also almost negligible pressure. Veins are comparatively thin-walled. They have to face less pressure. And second thing, that the lumen of vein is more large. The lumen of capillary, the lumen of artery is small. This is also to manage pressure, because heart pumps blood with the pressure, but the lumen of capillary also help it out, because if lumen is larger, then the pressure will be reduced. As we know that normally if we open a tap and we attach a pipe to it, normal water pipe to it, we just simply open the tap at a specific level and we attach a small pipe, that is a pipe with a small diameter. Water will go with more pressure. It will make maybe like a fountain or so, fountainous throw. And if we attach to the same tap at the same level of water a larger pipe, you will see that water will not go so far. So the arteries also help in maintaining the pressure of the blood, because their lumen is small. Due to pumping action of the heart, the blood goes with more pressure and will go more far, just like as in the pipe. But the veins just have to return the blood to the heart. So their lumens are large. They are thin-walled, large lumens. Second thing is this, that they have valves. We will talk about the importance of valves in the lumen of the veins later. Third is capillaries. Capillaries are actually very small vessels which have capacity of only blood cells passing one by one through them. Blood cells can pass through them only one by one, or even squeezed at some places. Their membrane is just one cell thick. It consists of only one cell on all the sides. That is, it's a single cellular. It's a single cellular membrane, endothelium only. Because capillaries are meant for exchanging materials with the surroundings. This is the reason that they are so thin-walled. Their walls are thin. Exchange of material can easily take place. If they are thick-walled, this will be more difficult to exchange materials between them and the tissues. Let's have a look on two diagrams to compare the structure of an artery and the vein. There is an artery on the left and there is a vein on the right. You can see that lumen of the artery is smaller. The lumen of the vein is larger. Inside the artery, there are no valves. Inside the vein, there are valves. Valves are actually the flaps of membrane, flaps of endothelium membrane, which can close that vessel sometimes. You can see two valves on a side. Then you can see the second layer. Second layer is the middle layer. That is, the inner one we were talking about was the endothelial or the inner layer. The second layer is the layer of muscles, middle layer. You can see that in an artery, the muscle layer is thick, and in the vein, that muscle layer is comparatively thinner, because artery need to handle more pressure changes. So the elastic layer and muscles are required in more quantities to contract, to relax, to press, and to handle the pressure, and so on. Let's look at the external-most layer. External-most layer is also thicker in the case of an artery, but it is thinner in case of a vein, because again, arteries have to face higher pressures, and they have to withstand those pressures. Due to this reason, they have a thicker connective tissue layer to protect them from bursting out. And in veins, because there is no such problem, they are more thin in comparison. Now we look at the capillaries. This diagram shows again a capillary bed. When the capillaries are making actually a network, we call it a capillary bed. This diagram shows that how capillaries are making a network, and the capillaries are actually the continuation of arteries entering in an organ, then dividing into arterioles, which is the organ level, then dividing into the capillary when they reaches different tissues at the organ, and then they are going back to make venules, and then they are going further back to make veins, and then returning to the large veins. Capillaries are single-celled thick. There is a reason they have to actually exchange materials with the surroundings. Let's look at the next diagram. In this diagram, you can see that a tissue is also shown. There are tissue cells on the base, and on the top there is a capillary bed. On one side, you can see in red color there is an artery. On the other side, there is a vein. Because at this level, the cells of the tissue are so close to the capillary that the blood which is passing by, blood cells and its contents which are very near to it, can transport materials from the tissue towards the capillaries, and from capillaries to the tissue by simple diffusion. Due to just pressure of the fluid, the tissue fluid, and due to pressure in the arteries, the materials are exchanged. Oxygen is released towards the tissues absorb it. Carbon dioxide which was produced by the tissues is taken up by the blood cells. Because they are so close, they are very close, there is just one cell thick layer in between them. There is one important thing here. You can observe that there are small groups of muscles surrounding the base of each capillary. These muscles are called sphincters. These muscles can increase or decrease, or we can say control, the blood flow towards the tissue. Sometimes few tissues need more blood. For example, if we are exercising, our exercising muscles need more blood. If we have eaten food just now, then our digestive system needs more blood. That is for exchange of materials. What happened that these sphincters are present on each capillary bed, and when more blood is required for exchange or for transport at a specific in a specific organ system, then the availability of blood, or we can say transport of blood in other tissues, is reduced. How it happens? These sphincters simply closes. When they are closed, blood cannot flow towards this tissue, and the blood is distributed towards those tissues which need them more. Maybe exercising muscles, maybe the muscles of our digestive tract, the esophagus, maybe the stomach, maybe the intestines. If they need more blood, then more blood is diverted towards them. It happens normally in our body. So these sphincters are actually to control the blood flow towards different tissues and divert that blood towards some other tissues which need maybe more oxygen. Maybe they need to transport their carbon dioxide because they are metabolizing fast. Maybe they need to release their toxic waste materials, and so on. So this is how, through diffusion at tissue level, exchange of materials takes place with the capillaries. And then the blood is returned towards the venules, and then to the veins, and then back to the heart. Now we compare briefly the veins and arteries and capillaries. Veins faces minimum pressure. At least in major veins, the pressure is almost negligible. Veins have to collect blood from the body and return it to the heart. They also have to flow against the gravitational pull. And this is very important. Number one, they have less pressure, reduced pressure. Secondly, they are returning blood maybe from the legs, from the feet to the heart. They are moving, the blood is moving, the blood flow is against the gravitational pull. So there is a more problem in movement of blood through the vessels toward heart. The arteries faces maximum pressure. They have to distribute blood. Blood is pumped by the heart, so it is having high pressure. So they are thick-walled, and veins are thin-walled. Arteries don't need any walls. Veins need valves to regulate the blood flow. Capillaries have to exchange materials with the tissues, so they are simply one cell thick and very, very small. Now we look at the importance of valves in the veins. Let us have a look on the diagram. In the center, a vein is shown. Most of the major veins, the larger veins, have valves inside because pressure is reduced. Secondly, for example, from our leg towards our heart, when blood is flowing with low pressure and with a wider lumen of the vein, there is a problem in returning that. How it occurs? Our muscles, group of muscles, help them. There are groups of muscles surrounding these veins which contract and relax at intervals to push the blood towards the heart. Now, when a group of muscle contract, blood goes up. But because pressure is low, when the muscles relax, it could flow back. These valves stop that backflow. When a group of muscles contract, blood goes up, then valves are open and allow the blood to go up. When the muscles relax, these valves closes. When they closes, they prevent the backflow of the blood downwards. Then comes the next valves and the next set of muscles which contracts, and the blood goes from that portion to the next portion, and then its valves also close. This process continues until the blood reaches heart. And in an abdominal area where there are larger veins, very large veins, the movement of our abdomen and the thorax due to the respiratory movements also help pushing this blood towards the heart, to the inferior vena cava, which is a major vein, which is returning blood to the heart. So this was the importance of these valves present inside the veins. They actually stop the backflow of blood inside the veins. Now we are going to talk about the main arteries and veins inside the human arterial and venous system. In human arterial and venous system, there are many arteries, veins, capillaries. We will talk about only the major ones. Let's have a look on a diagram. The diagram in front of you is showing you the major circulatory vessels inside a human body. The diagram, if we divide this diagram and the vessels into two major parts, then it will be easier to understand. We can see in the red all the arteries, because the arteries have oxygenated blood. We can simply say the veins are in blue because veins have deoxygenated blood. We start with the arteries. Arteries, as you can observe here, that from the heart, one major artery is arising. This is called aorta, aortic arch. This aorta just going ahead and making an arch. We call it aortic arch. Blood, when blood is pushed by the heart, it is pushed into the aorta to send it towards the body. From aorta, we can see that on the top, various branches are arising. These branches are giving blood to the head and neck region, and also to the shoulders and the arms. We can see on the top two major arteries going towards the head and neck called carotids. Carotids arteries are taking blood from the aorta and giving it to the head and neck region. Then you can see the subclavian artery. Subclavian artery is giving blood to the shoulders, and then it is going towards arms to make the brachial artery. Brachial artery is giving blood to the arms. Then this is the head, neck and shoulders and arms. Now we go down. The aortic arch goes down by turning downwards and making a very large vessel down there. It runs actually towards the dorsal side of the body, so we call it dorsal aorta. Dorsal aorta distribute blood to all the other organs of the body, that is other than head, neck, shoulders and arms. As you can see, just below the heart, this artery is giving a branch to the liver. This is called hepatic artery. Hepatic, something related to liver. Then on the other side, just some way down, it is giving an artery to the kidneys. This is called renal artery. Renal means something related to kidney. That is renal artery, artery going towards kidneys. Slightly goes down, we can see that there is an artery going towards the gonads. This is called gonadal artery. Going something more down, there is an artery called celiac artery, which is divided into more branches, and a mesenteric artery. These arteries are giving blood to the digestive system organs, the intestines, the stomach, and this is also giving blood to the mesenteries, the membranes which are present inside the abdominal cavity. Then this is going down. The dorsal aorta is divided into two major vessels called the iliacs. Iliac arteries are giving blood towards the legs. This artery is further going down to make the femoral arteries. Femoral arteries give blood to the lower parts of the leg, that is knee, calf and the foot. Now we talk about the veins. Veins have to return blood to the heart. We again divide it into two parts, from the upper parts of the body, the head, neck and shoulders and arms, and the lower part of the body, legs and the lower organs. From the head, you can see that there is a jugular vein. We call it jugular vein, which is returning blood from the head and neck region to the major vessel. Actually, there are two major veins which are returning blood to the heart. One is called superior vena cava and the other is called inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava is returning blood from the head, neck, shoulders and arms back to the heart. While inferior vena cava, as you can see in the diagram, that this is taking blood from all the other organs, the lower organs and the legs, and giving this blood to the heart. So superior vena cava receives the jugular vein from the head and neck, receives the subclavian vein from the arms and the shoulders, and if we go down if we go down to the inferior vena cava, then it is receiving a vein from the liver, hepatic vein, from the gonads, the gonadal veins, the iliacs called the iliac veins, and then the femoral veins from the knee, calf and feet, and the iliac veins from the legs. These are the major blood vessels of a human circulatory system. I simply say aorta, which is the major vessel, the major artery which is receiving blood directly from the heart and sending it towards the body, and the superior and inferior vena cava, which are returning blood from the body towards the heart. And then aorta makes branches towards head, neck and shoulders and arms, and then it gives away lower branches towards the visceral organs of the body and to the legs. And superior vena cava receives blood from head, neck, arms and shoulders, and inferior vena cava receives blood from all the other organs. Heart itself have circulation, which is called coronary circulation. Heart also receives arteries, which have to give blood, or of course distribute nutrients and oxygen and everything to the tissues of the heart itself. These are called coronary arteries. Then these distribute and converted to coronary veins, and then give back blood to the vena cava. These coronary arteries and veins are very important, because if sometimes any coronary artery or vein arteries particularly is blocked, then the result may be a quick death of the tissues of the heart, which may result in a myocardial infarction. That is serious disease, which may causes even death of the patient. So these were the major arteries and veins of the human circulatory system. One thing more, that there is only one artery and there is only one vein which have opposite to the normal oxygenated and deoxygenated situation. The pulmonary vein actually have oxygenated blood because it is coming from the lungs back to the heart, and the pulmonary artery have the deoxygenated blood because it is actually taking blood from the heart and giving it to the lungs. So we can say that there is only one artery, pulmonary artery, which have deoxygenated blood, and there is only one vein, the pulmonary vein, which have oxygenated blood opposite to the normal situation. That is, arteries have oxygenated blood and the veins have deoxygenated blood. Now we talk about the heart, the pumping organ. Heart of human beings is four-chambered, as all the mammals do have. It have two upper chambers called atria and two lower chambers called the ventricles. Heart of a human being is the size of a clenched fist. If we make it like this, it's of that size. And all of these four chambers have the lumens. Between the atria and the ventricles, there are valves which are separating the atria with ventricles, ventricles with atria. And we know that from the vessels that heart is giving away one large vessel, one large artery, the aorta, and the other one is the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava, which it is receiving from the body. Heart have two types of valves. One group is called the semilunar valves, which are present in the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein, which actually separate the pulmonary artery and the aorta with the chambers of the heart. And the other group is called the atrioventricular valves, the valves which are present between the atria and the ventricles. So we call them atrioventricular. Now there is a right side of the heart and there is a left side of the heart. Right side of the heart actually receives the blood from the body, from the vena cava, and then send it towards the lungs through the pulmonary artery to let it oxygenate. The left side of the heart, on the other hand, receives blood from oxygenated blood from the lungs and then send it to the aorta. Now, because we know that lungs are close to the heart and the other body tissues are far away, so the left side of the heart, which have to send blood towards the body, is more strong. Its walls are more thick in comparison to the right side, because right side have to receive blood from the body and it have to send it towards the lungs, which are close. So the left part of the heart is more stronger. This is the reason that we normally feel the heart is present more on the left side, because left side is more strong and is more strongly contracting all the time. Let's have a look on the structure of human heart. Look at the diagram. On the right side, for the ease of understanding, the blood is shown in blue because it's deoxygenated. On the left side, the blood is shown in red because it is oxygenated. The upper chambers are called atria, right atrium and the left atrium. The lower chambers are the ventricles, right ventricle and the left ventricle. You can observe that the wall of the left ventricle is more thick in comparison to the wall of the right ventricle. Now we look at the vessels, which are first of all we look at the veins, which are taking blood from the body and returning to the heart. In the blue, on the right side, you can see inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Both are returning blood and they are opening inside the right atrium. They open into the right atrium and give blood to the right atrium. Then on the other side, look at the left atrium. That left atrium is receiving blood by the pulmonary vein. So pulmonary vein is actually opening inside the left atrium. It is giving oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium. left and right atria contract at the same time. It means that both atria are filled at the same time. The right atrium is filled by deoxygenated blood from the inferior and superior vena cava, but the left atrium is filled with the blood coming from the lungs through pulmonary vein. Then both of the atria contract at the same time. When they contract, the atrioventricular valves, they open and they allow the flow of blood towards ventricles. On the right side, you can see the valve, atrioventricular valve. This is called a tricuspid valve because it has 3 flaps. But on the left side, you can see a valve between the left atrium and the right and the left ventricle is called a bicuspid valve because it have 2 flaps. So when the atria are filled with blood, they contract and they release their blood inside the ventricles because of opening of the atrioventricular valves, the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve. When the ventricle is filled, ventricle contracts, and both ventricles, again just like the atria, both ventricles contract at the same time. Left ventricle, as you can see in the diagram, is connected to the aorta, the aortic arch. Before the aortic arch, the major vessel, which is called aorta. So left ventricle pushes the blood with pressure into the aorta. And you can see there is a valve between aorta and the left ventricle. This valve is called a semilunar valve. When the ventricles contract, then the AV valves, the atrioventricular valves, both, they are closed. Because, as I said, both of the ventricles will contract at the same time. And both of the AV valves, they are closed. When they close, they produces a sound. And this sound we call a lub sound. You see, the heart sound is lub, dub, lub, dub, lub, dub. The lub sound is actually the sound of closing of this valve. And then the dub sound is the result of the closing of the valves of the semilunar valves, the other valves. So this is the reason that when your doctor want to assess that whether your heart valves are working correctly or not, they listen through a stethoscope to the sounds of your heart, and then they guess that due to the sounds that your valves are correctly working, or maybe there is a problem in the valves. Now we come back to the right atrium. As you can see in the right ventricle, that when the ventricle is filled, just like the left ventricle, ventricles at the same time contract. Through right ventricle, blood goes towards the pulmonary artery. That is, this is the artery which is taking blood from taking this deoxygenated blood from the ventricle, right ventricle, towards the lungs. And in the lungs, this blood is oxygenated, and then again it is returned back to the heart through the pulmonary vein. Now, actually the right atria, so I just simply repeat the whole process. That is, the right atrium is filled by the inferior and superior vena cava, and the left atrium is filled by the blood coming through the pulmonary vein from the lungs. In the right atrium, there is deoxygenated blood. In the left atrium, there is oxygenated blood. And then both atria contract at the same time. The atrioventricular AV valves are open and blood goes to the ventricles. Then the ventricles contract. When they contract, then the AV valves are closed. And the semilunar valves, which are present, one in the aorta and the other in the pulmonary vein, they are open, and blood moves, or it is thrown towards the aorta from the left ventricle and towards the pulmonary vein from the right ventricle. And when the ventricles relax again, then the semilunar valves, they are closed. This prevents actually backflow of the blood towards the ventricles. Now we just described the structure of the heart. We go ahead to talk about the heartbeat and the cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle, or the heartbeat, Cardiac cycle is actually a cycle that starts from filling of the atria, then filling of the ventricles, and contraction of the ventricles to push the blood towards the lungs or the body. This whole process from the filling to still sending is called a cardiac cycle. During cardiac cycle, when the atria are filling, then all the muscles of the heart are relaxed. Atria are not contracting, ventricles are also not contracting. We call this situation a diastole. Then, first of all, when atria are filled, they contract. We call it atrial systole. That is, atria are contracting. Then, ventricles are filled due to atrial contraction. We call it ventricular systole. And atrial systole is of less power, is less strong in comparison to the ventricular systole, because ventricles have to send blood towards far away tissues or towards lungs, but atria just have to send blood to the ventricles, which are just very close, just attached to each other. We look at a diagram to make the cardiac cycle more clear. Step 1, atrial and ventricular diastole. You can see all the muscles are relaxed, and in this condition, at this time, the AV valves, they are open, and the semilunar valves, they are closed. And you can see that this condition, and this is the time when the atria are filling. When the atria are filling, blood is returning from the body, and blood is coming back, the oxygenated blood is coming back from the lungs in the atrium, in the left atrium. This is called diastole. This lasts for 0.4 seconds. Then atria are filled, and when atria are filled, they contract. This is called atrial systole. And this is ventricular diastole, because ventricles are still not contracting. They are relaxed. This stage lasts for only 0.1 seconds. It means that atria contract for only 0.1 seconds. Then the ventricles are filled with blood due to atrial contraction. Then the ventricles contract, as you can see in the third part. This is called ventricular systole, and this is atrial diastole, because atria are now relaxed, ventricles, they are now contracting. During this time, blood is pushed from the ventricles towards the aorta, and blood is pushed from the left ventricle to aorta and from the right ventricle to the pulmonary vein. At this time, as you can see in the diagram, that AV valves, tricuspid and bicuspid valves, are closed, and the semilunar valves, they are open in the aorta and in the pulmonary vein. This lasts for about 0.3 seconds. And then all of the chambers of the heart, they are again relaxed and come back to a diastole. This whole process is called a cardiac cycle. And this cardiac cycle makes one heartbeat. We observe one heartbeat. One heartbeat actually consists of this whole cycle. And we know that human heart contracts for about 72 times a minute, about 72 beats a minute, normally. Sometimes when we are exercising or we are doing some other activity, this may change, this may increase or sometimes may decrease, but mostly if we are, it is 72 times per minute. So this was about the cardiac cycle. Now we look at the electrical activity of the heart, which is behind all this contraction and relaxation. Let's have a look on a diagram. We may have heard of a pacemaker. हार्ट में एक पेसमेकर होता है. अगर किसी का ख़राब हो जाए तो एक इलेक्ट्रिकल ऑर्गन उसकी जगह लगाया जाता है, जो कि आर्टिफिशियल पेसमेकर कहलाता है. Look at this diagram. In yellow color, it is showing the pacemaker and its connections. Heart muscles are involuntary. These are not in our conscious control. These are automatically contracting and relaxing as it is required by the body. This is due to electrical system present inside the heart. Heart have certain nerves, we can say nervous system, which is shown in yellow in this diagram. On the top, top of the right atrium, where it is actually connected to the vena cava, is close to the vena cava, there is a thick group of muscles which is called sinoatrial node. We also call it a pacemaker. This is a group of muscles which actually can generate an impulse or electrical activity itself. When it generates an impulse, then this impulse passes towards the auricles, and this impulse is generated by the pressure of blood from vena cava towards the auricles. This impulse is generated, spread through the auricles, and the auricles, they contract. Actually, auricles is the other name for atria. So the atria contract. Then slowly, this impulse or this electrical activity comes down towards another bundle, which is called an AV bundle. That is atrioventricular bundle. Here, it is, we can say, accelerated. Its magnitude is increased, and then it moves towards the ventricles. When its magnitude is increased, when it reaches the ventricles, it creates a more strong impulse and more strong contraction. Due to this reason, heart always continue to contract and then relax. So this is the pacemaker. The SI node, sinoatrial node, is also called sometimes the pacemaker, which generates impulse, which spread through the atria, and then its magnitude is increased, and then it enters the ventricles and contracts the ventricles as well. So this was about the electrical activity of the heart. Now we are going to talk about another thing, that is the double circulation. Human circulatory system has a double circulation. Let's have a look on another diagram. Human body have two types of circulations. Look at this circuit diagram. This is not like a normal body, but this is just to show that how the blood flows. You can see a heart, body, and lungs. We start from the body. Deoxygenated blood is returned from the body to the heart towards the right atrium. From right atrium, it goes to the right ventricle. From right ventricle, it goes towards the lungs to be oxygenated. This part of circulation, and then lungs oxygenate that blood, and then oxygenated blood from lungs is returned to the heart towards the left atrium. Through left atrium, heart goes back to the left ventricle. Left ventricle, when contracts, push the blood towards the body, and it is returned towards the body. We call it a double circulation because on the top, you can see that there is a pulmonary circuit. That is, blood is going towards lungs, and from lungs, blood is going to come back towards heart. So, circuit is from heart to lungs and from lungs to heart. This is called the pulmonary circuit. The other one, if you see, starts from aorta. From aorta towards the body, and from body towards the right atrium, and then to the ventricle, and so on. This circuit is called systemic circuit or systemic circulation. So, human body have a double circulation, which is a pulmonary circuit and a systemic circuit. Now, the importance of the valves of the heart in preventing the backflow. Actually, heart valves are just like that of the valves present in the vein, are to prevent the backflow. We have seen previously during the cardiac cycle that when the atria are filled, the heart, the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves, the atrioventricular valves are open, and blood goes down towards the ventricles. When ventricle contracts, AV valves are closed, so blood cannot go back to the atria. And then the semilunar valves, they open. And when the atria contract, at that time, the semilunar valves are closed, so that there is no backflow towards the ventricles. When the ventricles contract, semilunar valves are open. When the ventricles relax, then there is a chance that blood from aorta and pulmonary vein could return back. But what happened? that semilunar valves close during ventricular diastole. So this prevents the blood flow back towards the ventricle. So the heart valves are very important in preventing the backflow, both the tricuspid and bicuspid valves and the semilunar valves. This was about the heart and the vessels of blood circulatory system of the human beings. I hope that this is everything is clear and discussed. We'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you.